I have a second channel, Cube Comp MTDX.
Hey everybody, here's the Bestec ATX-250-12Z power supply that I pulled out of my aunt's computer that I just serviced, that rebuilt eMachine system. Now this is not to be confused with the eMachine's Bestec ATX-250-12E as in Edward. Those units, those your motherboard pretty much had a death sentence if you had one of those installed, because they had a fatal flaw with their valve standby circuit. Now the 12Z on the other hand, they don't tend to kill motherboards, but they do still tend to roast capacitors with time. This unit here, this is a Rev D7R, so it's a probably a 2007, 2008 era Bestec power supply. This probably came out of a Windows Vista era Compaq or HP, and back around say 2011, 2012, that time period, I replaced a bunch of caps in it, and two of those in particular are in, at least one of them definitely is part of the 5-volt standby circuit, and another one is right nearby. Not sure if it's in charge of 5-volt standby or not, but when the caps go bad in these, at least the 12Z 250 watt units and the 12Z 300 and 12E 300 watt units, usually the power supply will just quit working, and that's about it. It usually won't harm your motherboard. But we're going to open this thing up because we're going to be recapping this thing. Let me show you what caps inside have gone bad. There. Alright, so wow, the caps over in the secondary side, they all seem okay. It's the two in the center of the unit that are having some problems there. You may see them on the bottom of the screen there of the video. The blue one right here, and this Rubicon over here. Both of them have actually puked their guts out a little bit. They both vented, not just bulged, but actually vented. And it's funny, I used kind of a Heinz 57 mixture of caps over here on the secondary. We got some OSTs in there, we got some Rubicons, we got this, not sure which one this is. I think that's I think it's a Full Tech? Yeah, one of the Full Tech caps out of a cheap end supply. Usually those seem to hold up okay. But, yeah, look at this Rubicon over here. It's, it's not looking too good. Same goes for this blue Leland capacitor. You know, the Lelands, they used to have issues with crappy formulas in their electrolyte, but they seem to have addressed that. But the thing is, these Bestec units, they all seem to have a hot spot right in here. It's not as bad as the 250-12E. Now the reason why the 250-12E is a motherboard killer is because it uses a analog 2-transistor 5-volt standby circuit, whereas these, I believe, use a digitally controlled integrated circuit over here that regulates the 5-volt standby rail. And when the caps go bad in the 250-12E, it causes everything to go out of whack, and it's just a path of self-destruction from there, and it also kills the motherboard in the process. But we're going to go ahead and replace those two caps there. So it's going to involve taking this whole board out, which is usually, it's not too awful bad. At least there's only two in there that need changing out. Now this unit, it was in service after this recap. It was in service from Again, I'll say 2012 to 2021, so I'd say 9 years, 8, 9 years. That's not too awful bad, but considering other power supplies generally will last for a really long time without ever having any capacitor problems, it's still, these units, they're not kind on capacitors, that's for sure. Every once in a while I'll find one of these. I think this is actually the second one that has actually blown out the caps I put in the 5-volt standby area. And of course, being a Rubicon cap, it's usually, you would expect to be a decent quality cap, and they are decent quality caps. It's just even the best quality electrolytic capacitors they'll eventually give up when you subject them to enough heat. They do not like heat, that's for sure. I'm just going to take these 4 screws out. Now, this unit hasn't been plugged in for quite some time, I should mention. It's been sitting. Definitely been sitting. But they usually, usually within hours, I would think. They tend to have their primary caps discharged. They have bleed resistors for that. So we're going to take the 4 screws out for the circuit board, and also we're going to pop out the voltage selection switch here. Makes it a little bit easier when yanking this board out. So now that we have access to the 2 caps, we'll go ahead and change them out.
Okay, so we're going to start with the Rubicon cap. So it's right here. Usually you can just walk these things right out. Just hanging on by a thread. So there we have it. 6.3 volt, 2200 microfarad. Yeah, it's looking a little rough there. And the other one, give me just a second here. I'm about to get it out. This should be a little bit easier to get to. Not quite as bad. Sometimes the trickiest part of this whole thing is trying to figure out exactly where the leads come out. One thing I'm noticing, this thing has a little bit of corrosion in it. May have to address that. I'll probably do it off camera. See if I can clean that up a little bit, or I might do it on camera. We'll see. I think I've located the 2 leads. Yep. I'm going to be a bit more careful with this one because there's some SMT surface mount components right nearby. Let's see if we can get rid of some of that solder, particularly right here. Let's use the solder sucker for that. And also over here, wherever it's at. Yeah, it should do it. Okay, it's going to grab a couple of replacement caps. Be back in a minute. Okay, so the two caps we're going to be installing are actually brand new, or they're new, they've never been used. So, yeah, last year I actually went on Mauser and ordered a crap ton of electrolytic caps, more than I probably ever need. I ordered some very common values like 2200 microfarad, 1000 microfarad, I think 470, maybe 1500. I can't remember the exact numbers right off the top of my head. All Rubicons. Now, these were some extras I had, so this is actually a probably a Chinese cap, but we'll see how long it holds up. And got this Rubicon here. I think it's a general purpose, not 100% certain on that. So, although it's a 16 volt cap, it'll work just fine. All you just gotta make sure that you exceed the voltage more or less. Let's say if it's a 5 volt circuit, you could use a 6.3 volt cap. You could use a 10 volt cap. You could use a 16 volt cap, and either of those will work fine. So, what I'm going to go ahead and do is just insert these through the holes. You may not be able to pick this up on camera, but on this unit they do have the here you can see right there, you can see how the shaded side is noted there, and there's a plus on the other side that tells you the polarity. And with electrolytic caps, you got to make sure you have the polarity correct when you when you install these bad boys, because if you install them backwards, they'll pop on you. They don't like being installed backwards. They will blow up. They will explode on you. They'll also blow up if you install a cap that's not rated for the voltage of the circuit. Just go ahead and pop that through. And since I have some extra here, actually on this one I'm going to pop it down to where it's almost against the surface, maybe up a little higher, because I'm trying to get it off that hot spot a little bit. I'll just bend the legs out here to hold it in place. Now we'll install this little one. The little one, by the way, is a 220 microfarad. I think the original cap in there was a 35 volt, and this one here is a 35 volt, and this one here is actually rated for 50 volts, so it'll work too. Sometimes it doesn't hurt to stock. It doesn't hurt to stock, let's say, a bunch of caps at a higher rate of voltage. That way you can use them on pretty much all of the above when it comes to like PC power supplies, at least on the secondary. I'll go ahead and insert this. You know, I'm going to actually install this one just like I had the other one. We'll have it raised off the board a little bit. Yeah, key thing is making sure the polarity is correct. Now we'll go and solder them in. Use a thinner solder here, especially for the small cap, because we don't have much tolerance there to work with. And it looks like the trace just got pulled up a little bit on that one. I'm going to push that back down. Yeah, this power supply here, I think, once these caps go bad, if they go bad, I would say this power supply would be end of life. And it's just the corrosion has me a little concerned about its longevity. You gotta watch some traces. The trace there was a little damaged, but it's still intact enough to make work. To make sure we ain't bridging up against something else over here. And of course, when it comes to solder, everything's practically moving to lead free, but I will say this: lead solder, it flows so well when you gotta solder something. It's amazing. Okay. So let me go ahead and make sure that other cap is okay. So yeah, although the trace is kind of on its last leg, it should be fine. Because I can see the trace goes in through here, so the trace is still intact. With this unit here, I'm gonna probably put a note on it somewhere, maybe just a mark on a Sharpie or just something. That way, if it ever comes back with bad caps in the future, I will just tear it apart, junk it at that point. So after I clip these leads, I'm gonna see what I can do about that corrosion. All these are a little long, it should still be okay. Of course, we got this standoff right here as a reference of how much clearance there is between the bottom of the PCB and the power supply chassis. Making sure we don't have any loose solder balls in here. Because sometimes whenever you're soldering, you'll have loose bits of solder going to places that don't belong, and sometimes it could be like that from the factory. I'm gonna get me some Q-tips and find my rubbing alcohol and see if we can deal with this right here. Okay, got some rubbing alcohol here. Let's see what we can do about these spots. See if we can clean them up a bit here. Yeah, I have to wonder if this unit got exposed to some moisture or something. And I should mention it was I do believe it got exposed to some cigarette smoke, because my aunt, she does or did smoke. I know she did smoke for a while. I think she still does. I'm not sure. Not exactly 100% certain on that, but yeah, it's just. This thing's kind of dirty. The good thing is it doesn't sound like there's really much of any damage to the to the PCB. So that's the thing, is if you can address the corrosion quickly and early on, things will usually be fine. And this is one of the reasons why sometimes computers that are exposed or used in a smoking environment just tend to not last nearly as long as computers that were not in a smoking environment. I'm telling you, this stuff is nasty. It's crazy to think what it can do to electronics. So I'm really just trying to get the areas that were most affected by it. Alright, so I'm going to let this sit for a little while. Let all that dry out real good. then I'll put this thing back together. So I'm going to call it quits for the video. So that's changing out those two caps, and let me get you a shot looking down at the PCB. You may be able to see there's one there and the other right there. So provided this unit doesn't fall victim to any corrosion or whatever, let's say that may allow us to get a few more years out of this unit. Because all the other caps there, they seem to be holding up okay. So anyways, hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Well, everybody, that's it for this video, but don't forget there's a lot more interesting stuff on the channel to check out. Also, if this is your first time visiting this channel, feel free to subscribe to keep your channel, and also don't forget to tick the bell so that way you'll get notified of new video posts. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, but if you really didn't like it, there is the alternative option available as well. Also, feel free to check out my second channel, CubeComp MTDX. There you'll find videos about bicycling, weather, elevator tours, and all sorts of other neat, interesting stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to come back, and thank you for your support.